Hey everybody, Movie Reviewer next door here. I'm back with another review. Randomly thought I'd watch a movie. Kind of pissed off today. And today I saw Legacy. It's a 2022 thriller from 2020, directed by R. Ellis Frazier, and it stars Louis Mandylor, Luke Goss, Roberto Sanz, uh, Renton Pexa, and Elia Baskin. In this film, while on a hunting trip in the isolated wilderness, a father and his adopted teenage son are turned into the prey of unknown assailants. They are unexpectedly joined in their fight for survival by a stranger who reveals the disturbing truth about the son's biological father, an international crime lord, and why that crime lord has sent trained assassins to kill the teenager. So, what did I think of Legacy? Well, here's the thing. There's a couple reasons why I picked this movie. I randomly was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch this because it's been on my watch list for a bit. The last thing I saw from this director, because this director has directed 10 movies that are on Letterboxd, so I'm pretty sure that's all of his feature length stuff. The only film I've seen from him so far is Repeater, which that is the poster. It is from last year, 2022, and I didn't mind it. I thought it was pretty decent, decent pace. Didn't feel like it went on too long. I didn't mind the main actor who, from what I think is going on, I feel like it was kind of a passion project for him, and people were calling it like a Wish.com John Wick. That's not what it was going for. That's a really stupid thing to say. But there were a ton of people in it that I love. Kristanna Loken, Nick Moran, Gary Daniels, James Faulkner, Corbin Burnson. And yeah, that was a pretty decent movie. I will say Legacy isn't as good as Repeater, but it's all right. It's a decent enough watch, I guess. Without these performances and without these certain actors being involved, I wouldn't really want to recommend this. I don't even fully recommend it, just if you're into these types of movies like I am. But let me get to the cast. Louis Mandylor plays Frank. He's the father of his teenage adopted son, and they end up going camping. Louis Mandylor is always reliable in these types of roles. He's been in a ton of Jesse V. Johnson's films. He's been in the Big Fat Greek Wedding films. He pops up everywhere. And yeah, I think he is a good actor. He's always plays his part well. I haven't seen him do bad in a film yet or a lazy performance. Luke Goss plays Agent Gray, who's there trying to help them out and like save the kid so that he can go into this trial. Luke Goss, while I do wish there was a bit more action involving Luke Goss, he does a good job acting wise. I think both him and Louis Mandylor hold this film together really. Um, I'll explain what that means, but Roberto Sanz plays Z, who is the assassin that is out to get him, the teenage son. Um, I feel like I've seen him before. It's listed that he was in Night of the Sicario. I think I recognize him from that. I will say this is better than Night of the Sicario because that was such a fucking disappointment given the actors involved. But he was in Too Fast, Too Furious as well, and he does a good job. He does. He's imposing. I like that they try to give him more of a character. Um, yeah, he was good. Uh, Freaking what's his name again? Renton Pexa plays Jake, the teenage son. He does a good job. I have to say, if like there's anything that I can give to this film, all around really good performances, and it does kind of make up for some things in the film. But yeah, he plays this like he's a hemophiliac, meaning that his blood doesn't clot properly. Um, And while I will say that doesn't really come into play like I thought it would, it's interesting to have a character with that. I just wish they would have written the character to be more like an actual hemophiliac. I know hemophiliacs. I know how fucked up of a thing it is to have. And Elia Baskin plays Boronovich. Elia Baskin is one of those actors that you see in a million things. He was in the Spider-Man series. Um, and yeah, he does his job here. I wish he had more to do, because if I'm being honest, he's not really given that much to do. Um, but he's still fine. But yeah, this film is it's not really anything special. I can say that about it. I can admit it does have its moments where it drags a bit, and you're gonna have that with these types of plots where it's just like people running around in the woods or in the open desert or something like that, because the scenery doesn't really change that often. And there's characters in this film that kind of just die and then there's no mention of them again. There's no seeing of consequences due to them dying. So it kind of just leaves you feeling a bit hollow. Um and like it's not like the characters that die are super like plot important. It's just that it feels like they were just added to the film just to up the body count. And this film is another one of these that I see that I feel like the director didn't know if he wanted to make a straight up action movie or an intense thriller, because there are times where this film goes into like character backstories and you're like, "Oh, that means this character is going to become important." You get into this big backstory of this big villain and you don't even really see him get his comeuppance, and it yeah, that did take it down a peg, because this main villain that Elliot Baskin plays is given this like really evil backstory. Like not so evil that it's like comedically evil, but a realistic enough backstory that I'm like, "Oh yeah, I want to see this person get just or not get justice, but I want to see these people get justice against this guy." And you don't really see that. The film kind of just ends. And the ending is very unclear. If you see the film and know what I'm talking about, the ending dealing with the kid is very unclear. I don't know what they're going for. But again, it's not this film's bad. The film isn't bad. It kept my interest at least. I wanted to know what would happen next. But the film, like, when there's a moment where a certain character dies near the very end, like about 8 minutes from the end, that I was like, "Oh, are we gonna get like a chase scene or something next to something else?" And then it's like, no, kind of just cuts to everything being all right. And I know that might be kind of a spoiler, but it's it felt kind of unsatisfying. I was hoping for a bit more of a I was hoping that more people were going to get into the final act, and the final act does kind of just fall flat. But again, like I said, most of the acting in this film and like the backstories that are like given for these characters are pretty well done. I don't have many complaints with the acting at all, because this actor Renton Pexa that plays Jake the kid, I guess he's kind of a newcomer. Apparently apparently he's in American Horror Story. I don't know what season he's in, but he hasn't really been in. Let me see what movies he's been in. He's apparently in a Lifetime movie called The Wrong Student. He's in a show called Solve, which I've never heard of. Um, and he's in this. So he's basically been in two movies, a TV movie and this, which was a straight to streaming movie. So and from what I've seen so far, he's not a bad young actor. I don't know how old he is, I don't know if I buy him as a teenager though. He's like it's not like he's too old. He just looks a little bit older than a teenager, and he's supposed to be a teenage son. And and I do wish they did more with his character because his character is interesting. It's interesting to have a character with that type of, thing to him. It's what the biggest thing I can say for this film is missed potential. You have Luke Goss, who's a beast in martial arts. He gets one scene to really show it off because the later scene of him fighting is kind of just it's a mess of editing, and that is a pitfall of this film as well. The action is not well edited. The action in Repeater wasn't terribly edited, so maybe R.L.'s Fraser like got a better editor for Repeater. But yeah, I was not big on the editing in this film. Like when it was shots of people shooting at each other, which there wasn't much of that either. It's like it was like the editing was fine. They didn't jump cut, but like you have someone like Luke Goss who can actually do his own stunts. I'm guessing just that the actors that he did the fights with aren't stuntmen or aren't fighters themselves. I just wish we could get a movie with like a bunch of fighters that can also act. But I guess that's too much to ask. But yeah, that is one of the pitfalls of the movie. The other pitfall is that this film has so much missed potential with its concept. And I think that it just kind of failed to be as intense as it wanted to be or as it should have been. Because you can have this cat and mouse chase thing throughout the woods and it can work. I just, again, think the film missed a lot of the potential of its premise. And if I'm being honest, it does just kind of end. It doesn't really give a lot of closure to anything, and that's a big thing with me. If your film ends like Get Carter, I'm not going to spoil how that film ends, but that ending is not satisfying. No one can watch that movie and legitimately tell me that is a satisfying ending. Because it's not. It's anticlimactic, and I feel like the reason people love that movie so much is because it's anticlimactic. And I don't understand that in for one freaking. I don't understand that 1 second. So like, this film's ending is this film technically has an ending. I'm not going to say that it like ends without tying up certain things. It does not tie everything up. And that did kind of disappoint me because I was going into this film open-minded and I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe I'll enjoy it." And I enjoyed it to an extent. There were things that I enjoyed, but again, it just kind of fell flat. I and another thing, these freaking posters. Again, okay. Yes. Like I said, Luke Goss, that that's Luke Goss right there. He is in the film a lot. I'd say he shares almost equal screen time with Louis Mandylor, but he's not really the main character. Louis Mandylor is. And there's a picture of like a sniper. There is a sniper character in the film, but he never wears that outfit. And down here, it's showing like a 10-year-old kid and like a elderly man. Those characters are not in the film. The Spanish poster, uh, Legado. Let me show you the fucking Spanish poster because it shows people on ATVs, and I'll explain why that's weird. Yeah, it shows people on ATVs, explosions. There are no explosions in this film at all. None. Um, at the top, it does show Luke Goss and Louis Mandylor, but it shows like people. It shows like two people who aren't in the film at all on ATVs. And if there was like an action scene with like ATVs and explosions everywhere, that would have been awesome. But I feel like a lot of these posters were just like made that way for well, there's two options. It could have been to trick the audience into thinking it was a balls to the wall action film or action adventure film, or or it was to like secure funding. Like there's a lot of studios that don't even watch the films; they just look at the posters and they're like, "Oh, looks like a great movie. I'll spend $1 million or throw in $1 million on that." But there's also the thought that it's that they made, at least for this poster, they could have made it before they secured the actors completely, so it could have just been mock-up actors, but I don't know. It gave me a false view of what I was to expect from the film, especially the one with the ATVs, because I was like, shit, there's gonna be an ATV action scene? That would could be cool. But yeah, all in all, the film's kind of a disappointment. It's a 7 out of 10, but a low 7 out of 10. It's a 7 out of 10 instead of a 5 or a 6 because of the acting. Because the acting is pretty good and it never like made me cringe or anything. So yeah, I guess watch it if you like Luke Goss or Louis Mandylor, but it's not really a film I'm gonna die by in my opinion on. But yeah, that was my review of Legacy. Um, you seen the film? Let me know down in the comments what you thought. And movie review next door. Out.